It was another pivotal day in the highly scrutinized trial of Sean "Diddy" Combs, and as the proceedings unfolded, the courtroom buzzed with tension, curiosity, and moments of unexpected emotion. The spotlight wasn't just on the testimony, exhibits, and legal wrangling. It also turned to the gallery, to the clothing of onlookers, and even to a juror whose eligibility briefly came into question. One striking moment came early, when Christian Combs, one of Diddy's sons, entered the courtroom wearing a black shirt emblazoned in red letters with the phrase, "Ban Combs." The shirt's message immediately raised eyebrows among those in the room, particularly as Christian wore it while the jury was present. Seated beside another reporter, I found myself whispering the same question others were clearly thinking. How was this allowed? The shirt's bold statement was partially obscured by a mesh top layered over it, making it uncertain whether the jurors could clearly read the provocative message. Nevertheless, it was conspicuous enough to draw the attention of a courtroom marshal, who approached Christian and examined the shirt closely. Based on what I had seen happen in previous days, especially the instance where another person was instructed to turn a free puff sweatshirt inside out, I anticipated similar action here, but surprisingly, no such instruction followed. Christian was allowed to continue wearing the shirt throughout the day. This decision stood in stark contrast to how others in the gallery had been treated for wearing politically or emotionally charged attire. It begged the question of consistency in courtroom decorum, especially in a trial with such high public interest and media scrutiny. The emotional texture of the day was heightened by an unexpected gesture. Jane, a key witness in the trial, embraced both the defense attorney and the prosecutor before exiting the courtroom. It was a surprising moment of human connection in a space typically defined by its rigid legal roles. One viewer named Danny asked whether Jane had stared down Diddy as she exited the stand. From my vantage point, no such moment occurred. If anything, Jane appeared to avoid eye contact with Diddy altogether throughout her time on the stand. Her body language was largely guarded, focused, and direct. Still, the moment when she hugged Diddy's defense attorney caused a visible reaction from those of us watching. It was brief but intense, a moment that underscored just how personal, layered, and complex this trial has become. Another dramatic thread emerged involving a seated juror. For several days, whispers had circulated about whether this juror might be removed, but it wasn't until today that we received more insight into the situation. The issue at hand concerned the juror's residency, with the prosecution raising concerns about possible inconsistencies in the juror's statements. Judge and counsel discussed the matter at length, balancing procedural fairness with sensitivity to the juror's role and privacy. The government expressed its belief that the jurors' statements made on their initial questionnaire and during prior closed-door interviews might not align. The term possible deceit was floated by the prosecution, sparking a rebuttal from the defense. According to the defense, this juror had already been interviewed twice in the judge's chambers, and they argued that continued scrutiny might amount to harassment. They also raised the racial dimension, suggesting that efforts to dismiss the juror, who is black, could be perceived as racially motivated. However, the judge pushed back, affirming that the motion to question the juror again originated from the jury staff, who had received a concerning comment from the juror and escalated it through proper channels. In an unusual show of unity, even Sean Combs himself was brought into the discussion. The defense consulted with him directly and reported to the court that Diddy supported the juror remaining on the panel. I waive," Combs reportedly said from his seat at the defense table when the judge asked if he would forego a further hearing on the matter. Ultimately, the judge decided to take both sides' arguments under advisement. For now, the juror remains, and no official dismissals have occurred. The juror in question remained attentive and engaged throughout the day's proceedings, a testament to the solemn civic responsibility all jurors carry. Adding to the day's intrigue was the brief appearance of Kanye West. Reports confirmed he had visited one of the overflow rooms located on a different floor of the courthouse. West sat beside Christian Combs during his short stay before quietly departing. While his presence didn't disrupt proceedings directly, it added to the celebrity gravity surrounding this trial. Perhaps the most impactful testimony of the day came from Homeland Security Investigations HSI Special Agent Andre Lemon. His role was to authenticate and contextualize a wide array of exhibits seized from Diddy's Los Angeles residence, images and evidence that painted a picture of excess, secrecy, and, in the government's view, criminal enterprise. We saw photographs showing the layout of Diddy's home, from the front and back exteriors to detailed floor plans of the basement and first floor, including bedrooms, a garage, closets, and, crucially, the security room. That room became the center of gravity for today's testimony. According to Agent Lemon, the security room contained a cache of firearms and accessories: a bolt-action Ruger rifle, a Smith & Wesson rifle, a Glock pistol, multiple 30-round magazines, and drum magazines. There were also bullets, firearm safes, and tactical bags. Prosecutors emphasized the scale and potential lethality of these weapons, noting armor-piercing rounds and semi-automatic capability. Beyond the weapons, the exhibits also included what Lemon described as 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of Astroglide, a level of inventory that struck many in the courtroom as excessive, if not bizarre. The relevance of these items lies in the broader racketeering narrative. The government alleges these items were part of a pattern of conduct involving coercion and sexual exploitation. Exhibit photos also revealed drawers full of manila envelopes marked with the letter K. Lab results, indicated the envelopes contained ketamine residue, supporting the theory that K stood for the controlled substance. Additional imagery showed baggies of narcotics, Vaseline inside an iPad case, lingerie, large sums of cash in plastic bags, and even Diddy's passport. The prosecution's intention was clear: to create a visual and emotional impact that would convey a life lived in opulence, secrecy, and danger. The defense, however, worked strategically to confine the impact of this evidence. Their approach was methodical, challenging the idea that the weapons were scattered across the house. Instead, they emphasized that all of the guns were located in a single room, the security room, and that Diddy's known employment of a private security team made this arrangement plausible, even responsible. Defense attorney Mark Agnello repeatedly questioned Agent Lemon about the exact location of the firearms and whether any weapons or ammunition were found in bedrooms occupied by children. Lemon confirmed that no such items were located outside the security room. They also questioned the chain of custody and documentation, suggesting that law enforcement had altered the state of the home without adequately photographing its condition upon arrival. The cross-examination aimed to sow doubt about whether the evidence had been manipulated or misrepresented, particularly around whether the security room door was open or locked, and whether safes had been opened before agents arrived. This line of questioning appeared to be an effort to distance Diddy personally from the possession of these weapons, an essential distinction when it comes to potential firearm charges or supporting the overarching RICO case. While the testimony was intense and often graphic in nature, the jury remained composed throughout. There were no overt displays of emotion, no gasps, no tears, no whispered exchanges that caught the eye. If anything, the day's proceedings began with a slow burn. There were lengthy stipulations read into evidence, which could have contributed to a sense of sluggish momentum early on. However, as the exhibits were introduced and Agent Lemon's testimony gained momentum, engagement levels visibly increased. Jurors took notes diligently, eyes tracking each new image or phrase projected into evidence. These are the small but significant behaviors that indicate careful attention, exactly what one hopes for from a jury faced with a complex criminal case. The last, perhaps most humanizing moment of the day came when an audience member asked me, "Elizabeth, how many notebooks have you gone through so far?" The answer? At least 8, maybe 9. Each one is a chronicle of courtroom drama, strategy, and storytelling. Each page captures moments of tension, of surprise, of discomfort, and occasionally of humor or levity. Covering this trial has been nothing short of a marathon. It's a task that demands energy, stamina, and deep respect for the gravity of what's at stake. And yes, if there's ever a book, there will be no shortage of raw material.